The following presentation was recorded live for the International Association of Square Dance Callers 19th Annual Convention. We take you live to Virginia Beach, Virginia, where our session is just getting underway.
Good morning, everybody. We're glad to have you here this morning. And so that you are aware as to what this session is, if you want to make sure you're in the right session, this is KISS, Keep It Successfully Simple. Sit down, Ken. My name is Jerry Junck. I'll be the moderator here this morning. And we have two panelists with us who will do most of the talking. They will present the material that we have in mind. To my right here is Kenny Farris. He is from Laurel, Maryland. He's been in CALLERLAB quite some time and has been chairman of the Mainstream QS Committee. And to my left is a fellow who lives part-time in Far, Texas, part of the time in Cheyenne, Wyoming. He is one of the co-owners and producers of Chaparral Records and one of the original founders of CALLERLAB. And give both these guys a nice hand. This is Jerry Haag and Kenny Farris. We're glad to have them here. Our purpose here this morning is to show that a successful dance doesn't just happen. Successful callers aren't necessarily naturals. To be sure, they have to have some ability, but we need to demonstrate, or we hope to demonstrate, that the most successful callers and most successful dances generally follow a pattern or a program or a plan or a theme, whichever. We also want to show that once a caller has established a program, that same program really basically doesn't change. You change the music, you may change the content, but the idea of the program really doesn't change much. This first handout, called Programming a Dance, is Tip Programming and Dance, is something that we use at our caller school to program a dance, and it shows a 2.5-hour dance, 8 tips. And this is basically what we're talking about. Every dance will follow really the same type of program all the way through. Your first tip is an easy tip, and you want the people to learn to trust you. You want to try to build up enthusiasm and a rapport with your crowd. The second tip is along the same line. You may try a little more intricate choreography. You want to set the mood, the tone, and again, you want enthusiasm. For myself, if I'm going to do a workshop, it'll be tip number 3 in that type of a dance. That's your more difficult material. You want to get the people thinking and to listening to you. And if you want to work them on anything, that's the time to do it. Tip 4, you're going to do maybe a little bit more of that material or expound on it a little further, take it a little further. But you want to be sharp. You want to have the appearance of being confident. You want your material to work. That's the main thing. And tip 5, that's when I personally back off. I'll do, I normally do 2 singers. Some guys use some hot hash, but I normally use 2 singing calls about that time of the dance just to let them relax, let them enjoy music. Tip 6 is an easy to medium hard tip. That's my fun tip. If I'm going to use any gimmicks, it'll be in tip 7, the tip before the last tip of the dance. And the final tip, a short patter and some singing calls, or 2 singing calls, but I want everybody to walk out of that hall, that tip, that everybody danced. Because that's the last impression that they have on you, is that last tip, the last tip that they were there. And everybody should dance. And that is the last image that they will remember of you, is when they walked out of the hall. So that's the first handout. The second one I'm going to let Ken talk about. It's on theming a tip, and I'm going to bring these guys up right now to visit. Kenny is going to visit with you. He's going to talk about how to plan a dance choreographically. He's going to talk about timing, about choreography, how to use formations to theme a tip, that type of thing. Jerry, on the other hand, when he gets up, he's going to talk about how to read a floor. What do we mean by reading a floor? How to tell quickly what the ability of the dancers are. And how does that affect your dance program that we just looked at for the whole evening. He's also going to talk about how he would use music at the various stages of the dance. So those are the things we're going to talk about, and like I said, I'm going to turn this over to Ken first, so give a nice hand to Ken Farris.
Thank you. You don't mind if I sit down, do you? You're all sitting down, right? Okay, by the way, this topic I'm the editor for our local newsletter for our callers organization, and I'd written an article called Plan to Succeed, and that was before I knew that the theme for this weekend was Success by Design. It almost means the same thing, doesn't it? I'm very comfortable in front of square dancers when I'm calling, but I'm just talking to people. I'm not quite as comfortable, so I'll be doing a little more reading than you might expect some of the commentators to do. So people don't plan to fail. They just fail to plan. So you should plan to succeed. Let's say you're calling for the top fanners tomorrow night. Should you, A, wait until tomorrow, throw the equipment in the car, go to the dance and wing it? B, get your square dance dolls out or use your little computer program, plan every sequence you're going to call, write it out, and then read it at the dance? Or C, something in between? Like my kid likes to say, duh. Believe it or not, we have both extremes represented right here in River City. Mr. Wing It has been calling for a long time. He doesn't have to plan his dances anymore. In fact, he hasn't planned a dance in years. He even uses the same singing calls week after week after week. And then he wonders why his crowds are dwindling, or his dancers have moved on to advanced. His biggest fans think he's the greatest thing that there ever was, and they can do anything he calls. Funny, they can't seem to dance to the other callers. Then there's Mr. Read It. He's a less experienced caller. His notes are his security blanket. He prepares exotic choreography that looks good on paper, but it's awkward to dance sometimes, or too difficult for the dancers. Since he's reading it, he can't look up to see how the dancers are doing because, heck, he might lose his place. When he does look up and realizes no one is dancing, he insists they have to try this sequence over again because it worked with his checkers. Then he wonders why he doesn't have his own club, or why even his friends are asking the club caller not to let him call. Then there's the successful caller, Mr. In-Between. He's comfortable calling a guest tip with no warning or being a guest caller for an evening at a strange club. And he keeps his regular club dancers happy week after week. How does he do it? How can you do it? First, let's talk about the guest tip. Let's say you're at a dance and you've been asked to call a tip. You only have one shot, so you want to give it your best. But remember, your best is not your trickiest choreography, but material that you're comfortable with. If you've got something that's kind of slick, but you think you're pretty confident everybody's going to get, then you might want to try that. But what you really want to do is some smooth, easy, comfortable choreography, something more than just a singing call figure put to patter, but nothing where you have to stop the flow of the dance and to tell the dancers to check their formation. Here you are, you're over here. And then, same thing on the guest tip. You want to do a singing call that should fit into the picture that the other caller or callers have been painting that evening. If the last singing call was a real hard driver, well, you want to come back with something a little more mellow. And by the same token, if the guy before you, or gal before you, did a kind of a la-di-da mellow tune, then you want to lift the floor a little bit. Not something that's going to leave their tongues hanging out, but something a little peppier than the last tune. In other words, have several records with you so that you can make your tip fit into the evening. And don't try to outshine the host caller or the caller before you. If it happens, it happens. But don't try to do so. That's not what square dance calling is all about. The dancers will remember you for calling a pleasant tip, or for breaking down the floor and trying to be a show-off. It's up to you. Oh, and one final note. Oh, it's a little humor. See one? Very little. No, seriously. Very little. Never ever ask if you can call a tip. This is totally out of line. If the MC or caller knows you're a caller, whether it's because he recognizes you or you have a badge on from Callers Association, he'll ask you to dance if he wants you to call. He'll ask you to call if he thinks it's appropriate and it's going to fit into his program. But don't ever ask him, because that's really going to put him on the spot. And next thing I'd like to talk about is the planning process that should take place when you're getting ready to be the guest caller for an evening. You've been hired to call at the Top Fanners Square Dance Club. I kind of like that name. I don't know where it came from. Most of what will be discussed here will also apply to your own club as well. When I was in college in freshman English, the professor, every week we had to write a 500-word essay. And of course, that seems kind of, if you're not used to writing, that's a little scary. But the professor gave us a formula. He said if you figure a paragraph to be about 100 words, then you need to write 5 paragraphs. Your first paragraph can make your proposition. The next 3 paragraphs will each illustrate a point to support your proposition. Then the last paragraph would summarize. And there you go. You've got your 500-word essay. We can use the same formula or similar formula for planning a square dance. Let's say you have a 2-hour dance. Without rounds or a talkative club president, you'll need 6 tips. A 2.5-hour dance with rounds and a talkative president and a refreshment break, you still probably only need about 6 tips. Now, you need 8 tips, like you said over here, if you had a 3-hour dance, probably. If you begin and end the dance with 2 singing calls, I like to do that a lot, kind of warm them up when they're coming in and let them go out on a mellow note with success, like Jerry was saying. If you begin and end with 2 singing calls, then you only really need to plan 4 patter tips, but plan 5 just in case. The first patter tip is where you want to get to know the dancers, get a feel for their abilities. Certain calls like perhaps walk and dodge, Dixie style, a scoot back, but not boys going in. You maybe have the boys meet the girl, or 2 girls going in, things like that. Maybe a half tag. These will tell you just how sharp the dancers are going to be. If you're at a plus dance, you try something like follow your neighbor, crossfire, peel off, or flip the diamond where the boys are flipping. Yes, these are probably the calls that are most likely to make the dancers break down, but better for them to break down the first tip than the last tip. They'll forget by the end of the night you broke them down the first tip. So this is where you kind of feel them out and see what they're going to be able to do. So test them early, and you can always increase or decrease the complexity of your dance and of your next 3 tips based on what you learned here. Some experienced callers may even find a call that the dancers have a little problem with that you might want to use as a theme for a tip later on. If they're not doing too well on crossfire, you might say, I think I'll use crossfire for my 3rd tip or so in the workshop, that thing. And the dancers might appreciate it. They'll learn a little something that night. So then the next several tips should each have a theme. And that's why I had the little handout on theming a tip. These are different ideas of things, of ways you might want to theme a tip. And I'm going to kind of go through these here. Let's say you decide to theme a particular call. Let's take a spin chain through, for example. First, you might want to call it with the boys on the end, your standard formation. Then let's say you try it with girls on the end. And then you come back at it and mix it up so you have, guy, girl, where there's a boy on one end, girl on the other, kind of, what we call mixed sex variation. Try it that way. And then you can want to stop saying end circulate double, because you've been doing that all night, right? So then you want to change that and maybe have the end circulate once, do U-turn back, or all kinds of variations of that. And if you're really getting going, you want to maybe try it from a left-hand ocean wave. But that's how you can take a call and just kind of stretch it and see what you can do with it. And I think the dancers really enjoy that and seeing how many ways you can do something. I had another example I just wanted to explore for a moment, was on the call scoot back. First, everybody knows the most common position is the boys doing a scoot back. So you try them with the boys going in, then the girls going in, then the boy or the girl going in. Then you maybe get them in columns and have your signed only scoot back, or maybe the center 4-box scoot back. Then maybe you get them into he, she waves. You know how you have 2 guys, 2 girls? Then on the diagonal, have the boys scoot back on the diagonal, the girls scoot back on diagonal. And maybe try an Alamo ring. Have the head scoot back, or the side scoot back. And all 4 couples scoot back. And then you go, we can't do that. Everybody knows how to do that, I hope. One's facing in, make a little star, and come on back out. But here's all kinds of ways you can take a simple little call like scoot back and just theme a tip around it, and boy, that was easy. Here you got 1 tip taken care of, and all you did was you played with 1 little call, and Of course, you get the end of that. If they're still hanging in there, you can try something with left hands, but that's getting a little chancy. But you might try some left-hand scoot backs if you like. All this for one simple call. And we can do this with many of the calls on our programs. Just be careful and know when to back off, and also know when to offer more help with your commands. The first few times you try something unusual, you want to be overly helpful. And when you know they've got it, then you can let it flow. But remember, you always want to watch the floor. Let's get back to our themes. Another theme might be for a workshop tip. You might want to workshop a quarterly selection or experimental call or something you want to walk through. But make sure that you're certain of the definition and you have some setups and get-outs ready. That's important. I think we've all probably gotten to a dance and said, you're going to workshop this, and you forgot how to do this thing. Next thing I want to talk about, another way you want to theme a tip is take several calls, maybe 3 or 4 calls, and use them throughout the tip and putting them together in different kinds of combinations. I put in my little notes here, perhaps you pick explode the wave and trade the wave and grand swing through, something like that. Just take 3 calls and just kind of play with them and plan some choreography around them. Another theme would be using different formations. Some of you went to the formation management seminar this morning. It was very well done. Different formation themes would be, for a whole tip, you'd play around with one of these inverted lines, 3x1 lines, columns, boxes, tidal waves, or even the Alamo ring. You get back and do those scoot backs, and you can do a spin at the top or spin chain through, or all kinds of crazy things you can do from Alamo rings, runs and trades. Then we come to the concept themes. The concept theme, I might say, would be like left-hand choreography, the whole tip doing left-hand stuff, or in tandem. I don't know if you've ever tried that one before. It's kind of fun. You just have the dancers, get them in double pass-through formation, tell all the dancers in the back, put 2 hands on the waist or the shoulder of the one in front of them, and tell the centers to start doing something, the others to hang on. It's kind of fun for a little while. Or as couples is fun concept. 4 boys doing something, 4 girls working together. Ends do this while the centers do that, or maybe some easy half-sashayed choreography. This all depends on of course, on the group and the complexity and the kind of dancing they expect. Then we get to the gimmick themes. Some of these might be your kaleidoscope or exploding squares. I never have done those, but they look good. 2 couple sets, 6 couple sets, maybe Siamese, no hands, if you want to, but you don't have to. And even perhaps some asymmetrical choreography might fit into this category. But some of these themes require extensive preparation and shouldn't be approached half-heartedly. These are just some ideas. Also, you want to spread your circle-type calls over the evening. By circle-type calls, I mean your dar stars, your wrong way dars, your Alamo rings, ladies in men's sachet, all 8 spin the top, your teacup chain, grand square. I call those the circle calls, things where you're not interacting choreographically, with patterns. I think you know what I mean. You're not saying heads do this, sides do this. I like to call those the circle calls. I like to, if you kind of plan your dance, and when you finish, go back and write a couple of these circle calls down next to each tip, so that over the course of the evening you throw them in, and you kind of make sure you've thrown them in. And the circle calls, make sure you keep the dancing in your square dance. So much of our choreography can get kind of complex and short order drill marching through. But if you put those circle calls back in, you're keeping the dancing in the square dance in. I think that's important. I still like to use the rip and snort. Everybody know what rip and snort is? A lot of you do. That's where everybody's in a big circle and you say, the sexiest couple, rip and snort. And anybody wants to takes their partner down the middle, and everybody keep the hands joined. One couple goes under and the lady goes left. And what do you say? Lady go left, G and the gent go haw. Isn't that how we say it? Lady go G and gent go haw. One goes left, one right. And everybody, the last couple has to do what they used to call a dish rag turn. And anybody let go. I always like to use that when it looks like I'm not calling what they've been dancing. It's a good tension breaker when they're out there. You might see a little frustration, a few squares breaking down. You say, well, I'll come back a little rip and snort, and they'll have a good time with that, and they'll forget about the fact I was breaking them down a minute ago. Now, so far we haven't spoken about singing calls or the importance of selecting the right patter record to fit the tip. That's another discourse that Mr. Haag over here is going to take a look at. But in wrapping up my part, let me just state that the key is, as always, using good judgment, both in your music selection as well as in your choreography. But don't underestimate the importance of your personality and your rapport with the dancers. Between the tips, don't stay up there on the stage playing with your records and looking for the next one. You got to do that at the beginning. Get out there and shake a few hands, walk around, get to know the people. You want them to remember you as a nice guy as well as a good caller. I wish you all good luck and success. Plan on it.
Give Ken Farris a nice hand. Okay, the next presenter, as I said before, is from far Texas, and if you would give a nice hand to Jerry Haag.
Thank you. Nice job, Kenny. That was some good information there, for sure. A lot of usable stuff. Reading the floor, I'm sure that there isn't a guy in here that probably hasn't misread a floor or two along the way while you're coming into this business. But normally it doesn't take very long for you to figure out what you've got to work with for the evening. When I start to read my floor, first thing I do is put a good piece of pattern music on so that there's no doubt in the dancer's mind where the downbeat is that they're going to be stepping to. Now, the first thing you probably do is circle left, join hands, circle to the left. Right away, you're going to be watching the dancers, and right away you're going to be able to tell whether those dancers have, through the process of dancing, picked up lots of things dancers pick up just by watching the dancers. Walk around your corner, slap hands as they go by, or they don't walk around anymore. They pick them up in that wave swing, do sort of business, and back to their partner and seesaw. They might get down on one knee, and you've seen them do this. Back to the corner, a la man left, and a right and left grand. Now you're watching how they actually step to the music, if they are stepping to the music. And if they are, and if they've done all of those things, like we like to see them done, then you know you're off to a pretty good start right away. They're dancing to the music, they're executing the calls properly. That's just with a circle to the left and out man left and walk around and right and left grand. If perhaps about halfway through the right and left grand they stop and do a couple of hoopty-doos with off to the left and off to the right and then twirl the girl and continue on, you know you're in a little more trouble. You're going to have to do a lot of self-adjusting there real fast to make your evening pleasant for both of you. After all, they hired you. So you're going to have to make them happy. And if they're happiest doing those things, then all you can do is through the evening, without them being aware of it usually, you'll force them into dancing some of the things that you like to see on the floor. But you got to make it fun. You got to make sure that they get through it. First of all, when I go into a figure, for instance, I'll have the heads perhaps square through. First tip, as we've already talked about, you're staying pretty easy. But we're talking about reading the floor. If I might have the heads do a square through and sides do a half sachet while they're doing that, take them out to the corner for a do-sa-do. Well, right away they're looking at the same sex. You can tell by the reaction of the floor immediately whether they're used to doing any of that or not. You'll also see a lot of self-adjusting on the floor. Pretty soon they'll look at the guy and say, oh, my girl's on the wrong side. They'll put them back on their own. So wait a minute, guys. So you've got to prepare them for that ahead. In other words, you may say head square through, sides do a half sachet. When you're there, we're not going to yell a rock. But right away they know that you're playing with them because they're looking at the same sex. Do a do-sa-do instead. And chances are, even if they do a waist swing do-sa-do, they're not going to do one now. You see what I mean? Even if they do waist swing do-sa-dos, they're not going to do one now. But even after the do-sa-do, if they don't complete the do-sa-do until they're around to make the ocean wave with the right hand, and then ready with the right, you probably won't have to prompt it. If you're reading the floor, then you're going to say swing through. If it doesn't start with the right hand and the center's straight and they're left out in the cold somewhere, then you know you've got a lot of work to do for the night. But those are little things that you can use to read the floor, but keeping in mind, you don't start off with that. But you're reading the floor, the first tip is usually your warm-up tip, and you'll be able to tell a lot from just that. But I'm talking about starting to read the floor to what you know you're going to be able to work with through the evening. Once I'm just in the first tip, if I'm doing circulates, I'll watch the dancers. You might, if you're real brave, you can take an all 8 circulate to start with. If they do that, you're pretty safe. If you want to swing through an all 8 circulate, you probably better be a little bit careful to start with and have the girls, if you want to designate, or hen circulate, center circulate, then all 8 circulate. They can execute those calls. You move on into other areas of exploration, so to speak. Anytime that you start working with couples in a sashayed position, is very risky to work anything that everybody's sashayed. In other words, if you said, say you're in lines of 4 and you pass through and tag the line face in, everybody's crossed over, everybody's sashayed. Very risky to do any calls from here because you're in new territory for everybody. If they're not used to dancing positions, that's going to be very difficult for them. Much better to only have one couple sashayed. Then you've got 2 people who are in a normal position, 2 who are not. So you've got 2 helpers on the floor immediately. You have 2 helpers right out there on the floor that aren't aware they're helpers, but they are because they're in the normal position. If you're going to, and you'll be able to read and see whether they are able to do that stuff, but don't put them all in a sashayed position to help you read the floor. Only put 2 in a sashayed position. That's going to be able to cause more success for you than everybody there. If you put all the boys together and all the girls together, for instance, in the center, if you had set it up so you did a wheeling deal and you had all the girls coming to the center, you have essentially the same situation there as you do with a sashayed couple. You have essentially the same thing. 2 of them are normal positioning, 2 of them are not normal positioning. So you look and see how they're reacting to your calls as you do those. And you have to be very careful, but even calls perhaps like recycle, and you might say help each other, because 2 of them are going to be in strange territory for a lot of floors. I just did a weekend up in British Columbia this last weekend, and they told me ahead of time that it was an all position weekend, a plus all position, and he said so. And he emphasized that a couple of times before I got there, both on the phone and through the mail. And usually, when they tell you that, you still have to make sure that they know what they're talking about. And he knew what he was talking about. It was very gratifying to watch dancers dance properly and be able to execute calls. So, boy, you can have a lot of fun like that, but unfortunately don't run into that too often. So reading the floor to see where and how much you can get by with is probably one of the most important things we can do as callers, and you want to take it very easy, a little bit at a time, and then you can build your program, as Penny was explaining a little while ago. Like I say, I use circulates, I use square through, heads roll away a half sashay. Try square through like that. That'll give you a lot of information. Once you move through that initial reading on the floor, then it's a case of going back to the programming of the tips that we were talking about a little while ago. The 2 work hand in hand, and you can have a real successful program by doing the programming after you have determined the ability of the floor, ability of the dancers, and what they're capable of doing. Music will tell you a lot about the floor also, the kind of pattern music that you use. This is probably one that most everybody has used. The dancers can't hardly miss this. Go ahead and put that down. Can't hardly miss the downbeat and the dance rhythm to that. Yet there's lots of little fill-around pieces of music in the background, but it's back far enough, never interferes with what you're trying to do by reading the floor. That's Company's Coming on Blue Star. Another, this particular record is practically all rhythm. Very little lead instruments playing around in the background there. Good for workshops. Good for workshops. They can't hardly get off on this one. If they miss dancing to this, you are in a lot of trouble. See what I mean? And same for the caller. If he misses calling to that, he might want to try something else. That's, excuse me, yes. Label. That's a Yellow Rose. Pop Hoedown. It's a YR102. I think it's still available. Blue Star. The number is 2394. Okay? No, Yellow Rose label. And the name of it is Pop's Hoedown. It's YR102. A lot of guys like to use singing call records for patter. This one's out recently, but there are loads of them. Go ahead and put this down. I'm sure you'll recognize the song, and it's a good singing call also. But it makes a very good patter record, and it gives the dancers a little more lift as they're dancing, and you hear a little more lead in there. But it's not enough that it interferes. Now, oh, that's ESP, and it's called Goody Goody. And the number is ESP 901. Very good piece of music. Now, I was a little offended one time when I listened to a tape, and a guy was using singing calls. It was actually an advanced level tape, and all the music he used were all singing calls. And I thought, boy, he's using some really sort of far out stuff. And then I kept listening to the tape, and all of a sudden, here come Rockin' and Rosalie's Boat. The one I recorded a couple of years ago when I was around 15, something like that. Anyway, if you're familiar with the song, there's a couple of breaks in there that's just drumming. Boom, bitty, boom, bitty, boom, and he just kept popping along on that. And I thought, how strange. I never even considered this for a sing call, but maybe I will now. So we can all learn. You have to be a little bit careful with singing call patter records. I think you should stick with patter records most of the time, but they do give you a little variety. Any questions on reading the floor? Is there anything that, because I don't want to go on into the music stuff, and if there's anything that you'd like to know about reading the floor, questions back here. Well, she asked, how do you cope when you have a mixed bag of dancers? You have some really experienced dancers, and you have some people who are just out of class. You really have to gear your dance for the people who are out of class. You have to use the other people to help them. Now, we use a lot of number programmed tips in our program down in the valley. If you're out guest calling in a club and they don't have any such thing, then the experienced dancers are, if they stay together, they're not going to have a lot of fun. They're going to start making their own fun, probably, until you can get the confidence of the new dancers. Because if you lose those people right off the bat, then you really do have a hard time. But you gotta kind of be like Santa Claus. You got to have something in your bag there, a little present for everybody along the way. So that's why it's very important that you also use this program your tips, so that you might hurry up and get to what you're going to use as a workshop item pretty quick in that dance, so that you can use that through the evening, get the people who are the experienced dancers involved in something that they're having some fun at also. Any additions to that? Anybody want to comment on that? What you do? We would like some input out there. If you have any ideas on any of these questions, go ahead and let us know. We'll repeat it up here so it gets on the tape. We had another question. You're talking about, she's asking the question, when you have perhaps she's picked out an advanced level dance, and you have experienced dancers at that advanced level dance, you also have inexperienced dancers who can't dance the levels below them. Is that what you're really saying? They can't circulate, or they can't split circulate, or? Well, you're really saying you have experienced dancers, but you don't have knowledgeable dancers. They've been through the levels, but they really haven't stopped long enough to learn the positioning. What they've been allowed to do then is progress on into advanced level without... Well, all you can do is directionalize and help them as much as you can. In other words, if you say split circulate, stay with your 4, or if you have the boys looking in and the girls facing out in your box, then you say, boys walk over, girls flip. I mean, you can help them with a little direction. If they can't get it from there, then you're not going to... You can't worry about those people a lot, because they shouldn't have been there to begin with. If you have people that come into an advanced area, or come into an advanced dance, then all you can do is read the floor as to what you can get by with about 80% of that floor. If you're going to go down to the very lowest dancer on the floor, then you got a lot more that are mad at you on this side than you do those few that can't handle it. You can't go back and pick up the worst dancer on the floor and design your whole dance around them. You'll be in a lot of trouble. But you can help them as much as you can through direction. Does that help a little bit? When you're starting that first tip, a lot of times I like to take a singing call. I had some somewhere. What did I do with them? I was looking in my box. I like to take a singing call sometimes that lends itself to an opener. For instance, Gary just did one on a chaparral called All My Rowdy Friends. The words in the song kind of lead you to believe it's made for a first tip rather than the last one. Put Gary on. Yeah. Otherwise, I'll have to sing. Size face, grand square. Do you want to dance? Do you want to party? Oh, this is old Gary, honey. So you can take a call like that and use it on your first tip, and it kind of sets the mood, gets them into the gear. If you have, this is one we use a lot of times at some of our chaparral weekends, or the weekend I just did up in British Columbia. It's called, what is this? I don't remember. We've done it for a year. Welcome to the Lake of the Ozarks. That last one, excuse me, I shouldn't be doing that, is All My Rowdy Friends, Chaparral. 326 number. 326. No, because the other side doesn't pertain. That actually was written for Kirkwood Resort. But this particular singing call, you can adapt to any situation. That's all right. You can adapt this singing call to fit a lot of situations. They call that the cherry blossom swing that I did last weekend, or it could be anything that you're working. Could be a club anniversary dance. You can still do this. I do it on my Wednesday mornings down there when we have our Wednesday morning cinnamon roll and fritter dance. It's just a good piece of music to get their motors turned. Go ahead and put it on, and I'll just use the cherry blossom swing, which we just did. So you can fit it in, and it really makes them feel special. Circle to the left. Welcome to the cherry blossom swing. Hey, we know you're gonna have a ball. Why do an allemande left that corner? Hey, do a little do-si-do. Do an allemande left that corner. Weave the ring, you can fit names. While the Huffmans do the rounds, they're gonna keep you smiling. Okay, you can work in the committee if you need to, or you can work in the caller, or I'll try to do my best to keep you happy. Any number of things. And it's just a good opening record. And if you haven't used it, you might get it. There's one Flip did a few years back. It's a Chaparral record. Number 702, and it's called Welcome to the Lake of the Ozarks. And it was a song that was written actually for the Lake of the Ozarks, and he adapted it to Kirkwood and so forth. But you can adapt it to anything you're using. So it's good. It's a good piece of music to set your dance in motion. A lot of times I like to come back with something a little snappy too on the second tip. I just pulled some out of my case. This is called a real good feel-good song. It's a rawhide, and it is a real good feel-good song. It'll give those dancers, you'll see them just start tapping their feet, and they're ready to go. Circle left. Did you ever wake up in the morning when nothing was going right? Maybe spent half that night just a-fussing with your wife. Allemande left that corner, well, do a little do-si-do now. Allemande that corner, girl, and weave around that ring. You need a real good, feel-good song. That's enough. So again, you're sort of setting the mood, setting the dancers into a good feeling situation. Those are records that you think about as you're planning and programming through your evening program. Number 150, Rawhide. Real good, feel good song. It's out on it's out on several labels. ESP had another version out. It was good. As a matter of fact, my Rawhide record is in the ESP jacket, because the ESP jacket has more words than the Rawhide did. So anyway, I used them both, but I preferred the Rawhide music on that one particular song. Let's see. Whenever you're doing singing calls, whenever you're picking singing calls to do, you want to settle in on things that you're comfortable with, things that you like to do, and your dancers will pick that up. In other words, don't hear somebody say, "Boy, I heard Jerry Junck doing here a while back, and I'll run down by that record," and you kind of struggle along with that record, but you still thought it was so good you're going to do it anyway. And you do it, and you go right down the tube with it. And how come it wasn't accepted by those dancers like it was when Jerry Junck did it? It's because he picked that piece of music. he felt it. He can sell that song, and you're not able to sell the song. If you can sell the song and you're comfortable with it and you like it, chances are you're going to sell that song to the dancers. Maybe even if it's not one of the top sellers that happen to come along the pike. If you like the music, you're going to get into it. You're going to sell it probably better than the guy on the label did. And that doesn't take a lot most of the times. Yeah. Now I'm not going to mention any names. I will not mention any names. Question. That's true. He said sometimes by not doing the popular songs all the time, but reaching around and going through and picking out songs your dancers aren't familiar with, they appreciate it because they haven't heard them before. And if they're dancing to the same singing calls to the same callers every dance they go to, it's not very long before they're tired of that singing call anyway. A lot of the singing calls that you use, the choreography that you put with that singing call has a lot to do with how the dancers will react and how they feel that song was done. If you're going to do, what was one Scott did? I don't know if I brought that with me or not. Yeah, okay. If you're going to do a singing call like Delta Queen, I don't even know what he put in here, to tell you the truth. Well, I use a star figure. He didn't use a star figure in this in particular. He has a Farris wheel in it, but a star figure with this call seems to fit with the theme of the Delta Queen, the paddle wheeler churning and what have you. So that's what I try to do, and I think it fits with certain songs. Tend to lend themselves to certain types of choreography. For instance, go ahead and put that down. It's a good piece of music, and Scott did a great job on it. Circle left, hey, I see her coming around the bend. Prettiest sight I've ever seen. Doing out, left that corner. Okay, that's enough of that. So you've already set the theme of the song. It's a paddle wheeler churning along down the stream. You get to the figure part of it, and I like to use a figure with a song like this, a star figure. You can vary that star figure depending on your ability to floor, but they'll get the idea of that also. For instance, head coupled square through, four hands in no. With the sides, make a right hand star, turn that star down. Head star left, like a paddle wheel a turning. Find that corner with a do-sa-do now. Okay, that's enough. So you see what I mean? You can fit a particular piece of music with a particular piece of choreography. So, and I'm sure you do all kinds of star figures that you could use to fit into a song like that. Of course, you can't have songs that leave them hanging off the ceiling all night long. You've got to fill in through the evening with songs that bring them back down a little ways and cruise along before you take them back up there. And singing calls are a great way to do that. Again, that's back into programming. But music does a lot of your programming for you. A lot of you have used this call. Did I give you a Delta Queen number? Delta Queen number is 813. Chaparral. How did I get all them Chaparral records in there anyway? You notice I programmed this pretty good though, don't you think? The first four records were not Chaparral. And I kind of sneaked a few of them in there. This is on TNT, and I'm sure a lot of you use this, and you can just about use this call as just prompt the calls and let the dancers enjoy the music. It's a great piece of music. I'd probably start this with perhaps sides, face, grand, square, go. Don't need anything else. It's a good way to read the floor, too. Isn't it fun when they all come out at the end of the grand square?
poor lady's chain. You chain 'em back. Promenade, let's go. Promenade, your lady, go walking with me, my little music box dancer. Nobody can see. Use a long figure. There again, you design the figure. You can design the figure in accordance with the level of the dance you're doing. If you're doing a plus dance, a good relay the deucey figure in there, let it go. Just let them dance to it. You can put teacup chain in instead of the grand square. But those kinds of tunes are invaluable. That's a TNT 211 called Music Box Dance. It's been around a long time. I'm sure a lot of you have used it. 211. Nice little piece of music that just came out on a grand recording. This kind of music, an evening is about all you can get by with, in my estimation, because of the type of music that it is. But it's a great piece of music. Go ahead and put the needle down. And you right away know why you can only get by with a song like this about once a night. You have a lot of dancers out there who will start dancing just like that. Because the downbeat is not pronounced. But listen to the music just for a second. You could just listen to that for the evening, couldn't you? But there again, you have to be fairly careful with what you're doing in an evening dance. You put about 4 or 5 of those on there, you look around and half the crowd's gone. I mean, it doesn't lend that kind of music doesn't lend to an exciting evening of dancing. But there's a great place during the evening for a song like that. Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. That's right. That's right. That's why I say you have to pick a good spot for it. If you've been riding them up there on the ceiling for half the night with songs like this. Oh, I didn't give you that. It's Grand, G-R-A-N-D recording. It's a new label. And it's called I'll Leave This World Loving You. Actually, a song like this, you really need a 6-pack and a crying towel to get through this song, because it's some of that hardcore country stuff. The number on that, let me finish this. The number is GR101. Just use this for country music dancing. Well, sure. Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. And a question back here. Sure. After a lunch break during an evening, he's saying it's a good idea sometimes maybe to use a song like that to bring them back after lunch with the next tip, and then follow with something perhaps like this is your second singing call. Go ahead, sure. With one on Royal, Louisiana Man. Now that'll get their motor turning in a hurry. You can just listen to the music and tell they're going to step right up and start moving, aren't they? Okay. Louisiana Man, that's on Royal. Number is 214, and it's a go-getter. You can flat out make them start moving with songs like that. I guess most of all, you want to please the dancers with your singing call selection, but also please yourself. Make sure that you're comfortable with it and you like the song. If you're doing a song that somebody else did and you're going to do it because they did it, you're not going to sell the song near as well as you are if you're happy with it yourself. Question? Comment? Mm-hmm. Question is on that last tip, when you're trying to leave a lasting impression on the dancers, would you use a song like I'll Leave This World Loving You or Louisiana Man? Now, you can go either way. You can go either way. If you want to leave a lasting impression with Turn Out the Lights, the Party's Over, you can use a record like that. And that's more along that letting them down, nice and soft and nice and easy. Go so far as to dim the lights and drop the music and get down to a whisper in parts of it and then bring it back towards the end. And that will leave a lasting impression. Nothing wrong with that at all. Or if you've been taking a little bit easy towards the end of the evening, you can go out with a bang too. And that will leave a lasting impression. But the important part, of course, is to pick something that will fit at that last tip. Yeah, right. Oh yeah, you know, if you find something that's successful and it worked at your last dance, or you find something that worked over the years, don't forget it. Keep it in your file, because it's going to be to your benefit for sure, rather than to experiment on the last one. It's not a time to start experimenting and see if this is going to be a good one or not. Experiment with your own club at home. I'm going to turn this. I'm kind of dominated here for a while. I'm going to turn this back to Jerry and Kenny, and get any comments they want, or any more questions from you guys too. Be sure to jump right in, okay?
Have a nice hand to Jerry Haag. I hope through the presentations of both Jerry and Kenny that you realize there's more to going into a dance than just choreography. The choreography is something we have to think about, but the music is still what we are. We are dancing. And I think from Jerry's presentation you can see how important what we select and how we present it to the people. Delta Queen would be totally different without right-hand star, the paddle wheels turning. Notice what you can do for effect. And the whole idea is to have variety without being hard. This is called Keep It Successfully Simple. You can create tremendous amounts of variety without doing hard choreography. Kenny over here talked about selecting your choreography. There's so many things you can do. When I think of choreography within a dance, I try to think of how I can do what they already know, maybe from a little different angle, but still make it easy. For instance, just different ways to set up diamonds. The end result is that you want a normal diamond setup that they're used to, but how quickly can you do it? For instance, and I only choose diamonds because they come to mind right now, but for instance, if I wanted to create diamonds rather than just from a two-face line have a lady's hinge, that's our normal setup that we think about. Why not do a double pass-through, just the boys, track 2, lead girl, turn around, touch a quarter. You have diamonds, something that they're instantly familiar with. You set it up a little bit differently, but you did not have to teach anything at all to do that, and it took only a second. Boys, do your part of a track 2, lead girl, turn around, touch a quarter. Something else that might work along the same lines is is do a coordinate, but girls cast 3/4. You have diamonds. It's that quick. There are lots of little things to do like that. I call them setups. I think that's the general terminology most of us use. Keep that in mind. How can I set up what appears to be normal from a little bit different angle? How can I establish a normal setup that they'll be comfortable with in a very short time without dropping my floor? What are the easy ways to do it? Maybe you want a little harder way. I use easy, medium, and hard. What can they handle? And keep that in mind as a focus. You can have sachet people. Jerry made a real good point of this. Half sachet people, I found that boys will dance together real well and girls will dance together real well, as he said, because half of them are in a familiar position. And it makes a real big difference. You can get away with a lot of stuff that way without being hard.
A lot of ocean wave figures.
Yes.
Like that.
Yeah. Jerry just mentioned so many ocean wave figures work like that. Spin, chain through, swing through, from boy, boy, girl, girl concepts or formation, what we're talking about. But swing through, spin, chain through, relay the Ducey type things. If only half of them are out, your chances for success are much, much more complete than if you roll everybody away and then you want to kind of take a step back from the stage because they ain't going to be there, folks, when it gets over. So, yeah, load the boat is another example. You can put the girls on the ends or boys on the ends and do a load the boat without any problem, but roll them all away, and it doesn't really work that way. Another way to set up a diamond would be from that type of formation. Set it up so you have girls on the ends, boys in the centers. Have the girls load the boat. The boys touch a quarter and spread. Girls pass the ocean, and you have diamonds that quickly. You want to have the girls do the pass the ocean first, so the boys have a chance to study on it when you put them in there. That's just a little aside that you might think about. I'm going to turn this over to Kenny. Do you have anything to add, Ken?
Ron, did you have a question? What Ron's saying, for the benefit of people on the tape, listening to the tape, is that if you're going to have a nice, smooth, flowing singing call, you should use some flowing choreography. And if you got a real bouncy singing call, that would be the time to use more intricate choreography in your singing call, perhaps. By the way, it's been an honor and pleasure to work with both of the Jerrys. Jerry Junck has thanked each of us. Let's have a nice hand for Jerry Junck for being a nice commentator today. Did an excellent job. Thank you very much.
We have 10 minutes left, and we'll take questions from the floor. I sincerely wish to thank all of you before you leave, if you do decide to leave right before we're done, for coming out. This is something that I personally feel very, very strongly about. I think our choreography, I think our focus on square dancing has become far too hard. Now, that's my soapbox for today. I really do. And I think we can attain variety without getting so hard by just some of the things that they do. The music, the choreography, both of these guys did a really nice job in presenting that type of thing to you. And what pleases me most is that so many of you came. I really appreciate you coming. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you also understand how hard some of these guys worked to put this together. The three of us have been talking about this thing since December. Now, we met this morning, but we've talked about it since December. And for Jerry here, for instance, he made a real effort to get in and do this. He was in British Columbia this weekend. His daughter is a great travel agent, but she still got him nailed. he flew out of, Canadian Air nailed him. He flew out of Canada and missed the flight to come here. It cost him $140 to buy another airplane ticket to get here, and I think that's just to get to Seattle. I just want you all to realize how hard it is for some of these guys to get here and all the effort that goes into it. So I wish, again, you'd thank both the guys here on the panel. It's been my pleasure to be here with them. Did a nice job. Are there any questions real quickly before we close? Did we pretty much answer what you wanted here? Yona? The question is, Yona said, and she does some traditional dancing. When she does a typical Western-style square dance, she throws in a quadrille or a traditional style dance. What's our feeling on this? I'm going to let each one of these guys address that. I will address it myself. Personally, if you are qualified to do that and you are comfortable with it and you enjoy it, if the dancers have no objection, I see nothing wrong with it. For myself, I don't do that type of calling, and as such, I probably would not present that material very well to someone who does. I think dancers would enjoy it, and I'll let each one of these guys respond.
Well, I don't do them either, but I would say if there's a round dance leader there also, they're probably out of place to do it because that's already the other thing. But if not, I'd ask whoever's running the dance if it would be appropriate, and it would probably be a lot of fun to have some little mixer in the middle even. I like to do Cotton Eye Joe every once in a while. Sometimes the dance is over 10:30, you look at your watch and it's like 10 after 10, you're ready to start the next tip. You say, geez, I want to do a 20-minute tip, but oh heck, what do I got in here I can fill? And you throw something different out, just some kind of mixer thing to fill up that extra 5 minutes, and I think that can work, and the traditional dance might work there.
I don't do traditionals either, but certainly have nothing against them. I think if you're able to sell that to the dancers, they have a good time with it, they feel good about it, and absolutely nothing wrong with that. That's why you're there, to make those, not only to call the dance, but to entertain those people and make them have a good time. So any of the tools you can reach into that little toolbox, like I say, the Santa Claus, you got to have something in your bag for everybody. And if that's part of your program and you're comfortable with it and you can let the dancers have fun with it, that's fine. If they finish the traditional tip that you did with them and they didn't have a good time, you probably wouldn't use it again anyway.
Okay, anything else? Jerry mentioned earlier, if you have that floor that has such a varied number of dancers, from just new dancers, say, to more experienced dancers, and he talked about maybe doing his workshop tip a little earlier. He didn't use the term, I use the term, that's a floor leveler. It is something no one, that's something, the time you would use a call, no one maybe has heard, and consequently they all start even the experienced dancers, and maybe you can, it's a great equalizer. And one of the reasons a lot of the traveling callers use that type of thing, it is a tool to level that floor or equalize the ability of the dancer on that floor. And that's a primary reason for it. Anything else? Well, without anything else, again, a very sincere thank you to all of you for coming in, and a thank you to Jerry and to Kenny.